Yeah.
I'm curious also, thinking forwards in time, as you've said, like, journey of healing is not done, but we've been talking about intergenerational trauma, and I think one thing that really comes through for me is, like, you are part of the generation that's trying to break that cycle and trying to make sure that cycles of abuse don't perpetuate themselves into the next generation. How does it feel to be a part of that work and to see maybe, like, I don't know, opportunity potential to not be part of perpetuating a cycle of abuse and a cycle of trauma?
I mean, it feels big, but it feels like, of course, like, what else would I be doing? I think when you go through such difficult traumas as a young person, you have a choice to make, you have a choice to confront it and try to heal from it and to prevent those cycles from perpetuating, or you can numb yourself and you bury your head in the sand, and neither one is right or wrong, because it's where you
正在计算路径，
there was definitely that point in time where I was
请沿道路行驶11公里。
but to come out the other side after shining a light on every dark piece of history that is in my lineage, my whole spirit is lighter and I am free, and I can feel that freedom, and all I want is to gift that to everybody else that doesn't yet have that, and to be a part of this movement of putting an end to these cycles. Like they say, it takes 7 generations to heal what happened, and I'm the 3rd generation, and I think if I can do this here right now, that it's going to be a really, really positive and beautiful thing for my lineage, and I hope that we can continue to do that. And to be a part of that movement, how does it feel? It feels very rewarding, and I can't wait to see what the next 10 years will be, or the next 30 years, because I'm 31 years old now, and this is where I'm at right now. So to see what the next 30 years is going to look like, I can't wait, because I think that there's a lot of us in community that are doing such phenomenal work, and I can't wait to continue to uplift each other and to continue to help us rise from this dark past that really has kept us down for a very long time and still does in many ways.
Well, Cheyenne, thank you so much for coming in today and for sharing so openly. I really, really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you for having me, and likewise, thanks for crying with me too.
That was Cheyenne Marie Sage. She's the author of Soft as Bones. I'm Matea Roach, and this is Bookends on CBC Radio. What do you think Montreal will look like in the year 2050? If you imagined constant AI surveillance, a global climate disaster, and a complete ban on self-expression, then you've got the same idea as the writer Chris Bergeron. In her book Valid, Chris imagines a dystopian future where an all-powerful AI named David has essentially imprisoned society under the guise of protection from ecological disaster and disease. Valid, which was translated from French into English by Natalia Hero, was this year's selection for One eRead Canada. It's an annual digital book club where libraries across Canada make one bilingual ebook free for download with no wait lists for an entire month. This year's program took place back in April, and at the end of the month, I sat down with Chris Bergeron for One eRead Canada's live virtual event to discuss the book. Chris joined me for that conversation from her home in Montreal. Chris, it's so great to meet you virtually, and congratulations on being chosen for One eRead Canada. How does it feel to have this book being promoted and celebrated in libraries across the country?
It's wonderful, and it's especially meaningful, I find, this year. I wrote the book in French in 2020. It came out in 2021 in French. nod to my book and share it to their audiences and their communities is, I think, a great sign of mindedness and reminds me of what this country is about.
So your book Valid takes place as an 8-hour conversation between your main character Christelle and an AI, David. This is described as a work of dystopian autofiction. It's set in this kind of future. It's a character that I think is drawing a lot from your own experiences. But this main character, Christelle, is a 70-year-old trans woman who is in a situation where she's forced to live as a man, and she's kind of re-entered the closet, so to speak. What are the circumstances that have led her to closet herself and live as Christian when we first meet her?
One of the things I was noticing way back during the pandemic when I was writing most of the book was that people were talking about the safety and the well-being of a majority of people, and not so much about the particulars in terms of health. And so I imagined if we lived in a world that went from crisis to crisis, or at least if that was the public message, the rights and the needs of minority groups would be ignored. And in fact, it's what we are seeing today as political discourse. It's almost a way to get elected today. And so in that world, in that extrapolation of the world we're seeing today, I imagined a world where essentially not only were rights not validated, to use the word, but actually removed. And anything that stood out of the sort of average or the common point of view of what should be a perfect citizen would be erased. And in order to survive and actually be able to be on the good side of whatever authority is in the book, my character has to detransition. But it's something that exists in today's world. I can imagine somebody who is trans right now living in Russia, where it's essentially been criminalized to be trans. So it's a reality that has existed in the past and exists today and will probably continue to exist in the future.
I want to talk a bit about the style that you used in writing Valid, because it's written in this monologue style where most of it is essentially your main character, Christelle, telling her life story from her childhood into her adulthood as now like an elderly, closeted trans woman. It's a very unique way of telling a story. Why did you choose to craft the narrative in this way?
It's funny, it comes back to how the book actually started. I was giving, and I still give talks across the country, talking about what it's like to be trans, and what the experience is, and what the experience is at work, and some of the challenges I've faced, all of that. And my publisher actually came to one of these talks, and we chatted after, and she said, "Oh, you should write a book about all that." And so I started with this autobiography, and very quickly realized that that book had been written before. The story of a trans person, a coming-of-age story, how I came out of the closet and I this and that. And I thought, oh, really, like, what's the point of that book if it's been done before? I figured that it would be more interesting if I used the book as an opportunity to exercise my fears and, tackle the big question, which is, how will I age? And is there a possibility
请沿箭头提示方向行驶。
old age for a trans person when the world is going to hell, in a handbasket. So, and that's where I thought, okay, I might have something new.
请沿箭头提示方向行驶。
Fiction, projecting myself into the future and